Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Zoe and I'm so happy that you clicked on today's video. So today we are doing the video that has been circling all around BookTube. We are doing the mid-year book freakout tag, which is basically just a way to talk about all the best and the worst books I've read so far this year, as well as my reading plans for the rest of 2023. And I just think it's so fun that I get to make this video because I've watched this tag for as long as it's been around. I've seen so many different people's takes on it, and now I get to participate in it because I have my own channel. So I think that's just so much fun, and I'm just really excited. So basically we have 14 different questions, and I tried to use a different book for each question, but I think I used one or two twice. And also I have several answers for most of these questions because I literally could not just pick one, but that just gives you more recommendations and it gives me more of a chance to talk about the books I've read. So I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. So I think we should just get right into the tag with the first question. The first question is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2023? And out of the 70 books I've read this year, I feel like I have read so many good ones, but I definitely do have a top pick. I'm sure you can probably guess it if you watched any of my videos because I talk about it in almost every single video, but I did want to take some time to talk about my top three instead of just my number one favorite because of how great some of these books have been. So I'm gonna talk about my top three starting from the bottom and working my way up. So starting at the bottom, my number three favorite book of the year is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was my first book of hers and I had had it for over a year. I kept putting it off and then finally just decided to pick it up one day in February, and I was completely obsessed with it. I was not expecting it to be what it was and it just blew me away. I loved the writing style. I loved just everything about it. The interview style format. I thought Evelyn Hugo was such a great character and I just had the best time reading it, and I still think about it months later. So definitely loved this one so much. Then coming in at number two, we have none other than Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I have talked about my love for this in so many different videos because I truly just adore this book so much. We follow Jacob and Bree, who are doctors at the same hospital. They get off to kind of a rocky start and then end up fake dating and eventually falling in love. And it's just such a sweet story, but it's more than just your typical romance because we have some topics like mental health representation, chronic illness representation, different things like that to kind of make it a more well-rounded story and just kind of deeper than just a romance. But the love is really, really sweet too. So I love this one so much. One of my favorite books ever. And then coming in at number one, if you haven't already guessed it, you probably won't be surprised. We have Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. I just love this book. I love this book with my entire heart. I love Sarah Adams. This is her best book, hands down in my opinion. It's just incredible. I love Will and Annie. They are so cute. I love the town of Rome, Kentucky. It's one of those stories where I wish I could live in it and be friends with all the characters, which I feel like is a sign of a really great story. So this is in my top three books of all time, actually. I love it so much. I recommend it all the time. I know it seems like just a cheesy romance, but I just personally connected to it a lot, and it made me really happy, so I love it so much. The second question is the best sequel you've read so far in 2023, and we're gonna start this one with Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. This sequel was so good. I'm not gonna talk too much about it because I don't want to give it away because it is a sequel, but it was just so good. I loved all of the characters in this book. There was so much action, fast-paced adventure. It is a YA fantasy book, and I wasn't sure if I would even like it. I didn't know if I would like this duology, but I loved it so much. It blew me away. It was just incredible. And it gave me the feeling that I get when I read the Hunger Games series, which is one of my favorite series ever. So I feel like that's definitely a good sign. I just loved that sequel. And then the second one I chose is actually a prequel, but I'm including it as a sequel. We have The First to Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This is a prequel to They Both Die at the End, which was a book that I didn't really love, so I didn't know what I was gonna think about this one, but I absolutely loved it so much. It's about the first day that Deathcast was created, so you're following the first people who were living their last 24 hours. I don't remember what they're called, but I just loved the characters in this one. We had cameos from the first book that were really, really sweet to read about. It was set in New York City, which I love. And this was one of those books that, not to sound cheesy, but it just made me feel like really thankful and reminded me how precious life is. And it just made a really big impact on me that I still think about months later. So this one was really, really special to me and it really surprised me. Number 3 is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. And honestly, I could have chosen so many different books for this one. I was thinking I could choose The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren or The Only One Left by Riley Sager, but the one that stuck out to me the most is In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. I love TJ Klune. Like, I love his writing. His books are so cozy, they make me so happy. And I bought this one release week and I still haven't read it, which is so disappointing to me because I really, really want to read it, see what I think about it, because so many people have said that they've loved it and that it was just a really great read. So I'm hoping to get to this one really soon. I think it would be a really fun summer read. All I know about it is that it's like a light Pinocchio retelling, just about a boy with a wooden heart, and that's really it. But I think it's gonna be so good, especially if it's anything like his other books that I've read, and I just can't wait to finally get to it. Next, we have your most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and my original answer was going to be The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which I am really excited for, but then I remembered that Betting on You by Lynn Painter is coming out this year, and that just had to be the answer because I cannot wait for this book. I love Lynn Painter. I love her YA romances. They are so stinking cute, and I just think this one is going to be so much fun. Apparently, it's like her take on When Harry Met Sally, which I haven't actually seen, so it doesn't make a big difference to me, but I know people love that movie, and I think the book is gonna be so cute. I really cannot wait for it. I have my fingers crossed that I can get an ARC because I don't see how I could possibly wait until November. But either way, I just know this story is gonna be so much fun. It's not going to disappoint. I just cannot wait to read it. Next, we have your biggest disappointment. And as I said, I've read a lot of great books this year. I honestly haven't read that many upsetting or disappointing books so far, but I do have 3 that were very disappointing because they were highly anticipated for me and I just didn't love them. But I'm not gonna go into too much detail about them because I have talked about them in past videos and why I didn't like them. But first we have, unfortunately, The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. This one, I love Abby Jimenez and I had really high hopes for it, but it just didn't work for me. There were too many things that happened in it that just like I had problems with and I didn't love reading about. So this one was really disappointing to me because I thought I would love it, but I love all her other books, so it's okay. And then we have Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld. This one I thought was going to be so good. It's about this woman who works for a fictional version of SNL, meets this guy, and then reconnects with him later on during the pandemic, but it just didn't work for me. Aside from the fact that I did not love reading about a book set in the pandemic, which I wasn't really sure how I would feel, but I did not love it. I just thought it was so boring. I felt like I was falling asleep when I read it. It took me forever to get through, and I genuinely could not care less about what happened to any of the characters or anything that happened in the story. It just like did not matter to me. I really should have DNF'd it, but I'm just too stubborn. But yeah, it wasn't for me. And then finally, this is definitely the biggest disappointment. We have Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. I wanted to love this book so badly, and I absolutely adore Every Summer After, but this one just didn't work for me. I felt like it was kind of not boring, but I just didn't feel attached to the characters or the story in any way. I felt like it was kind of unbelievable and the characters just weren't my favorite. I don't know. I just felt very underwhelmed by it, which was so sad to me because I've been looking forward to it for so many months, but I unfortunately just didn't love it. And then a fun one, we have Your Biggest Surprise. And for this one, A History of Wild Places by Shay Earnshaw definitely takes the cake. I'd had this book for a while, randomly picked it up on a rainy day and read it in like one sitting, I think. It was just so good. It's about this secluded community in the middle of the woods called Pastoral, and basically nobody in the community can leave because if they do, they will get this sickness and die, or they will bring it back to the community and everybody there will die. But then some people in the community kind of go, I don't know, I feel like something's up, something's weird. So they start trying to leave. And then basically from that point, it turns into this thriller where all these different twists and turns take place. It was just so much fun to read, so shocking. I didn't see anything coming and I was absolutely blown away by it. I wish that this book was more popular because I thought it was just so much fun. Definitely, if you like the movie Don't Worry, Darling, I'd recommend this book because it had the same sort of thing going on where I was like, what on earth is happening? I was just on the edge of my seat until the very end, until I could figure out all the answers. It was just so entertaining. Then we have your favorite new author. This can be a debut author or a new one to you, and I chose 2. I chose a YA author and an adult author. So we're gonna start with YA. I chose Bridget Kemmerer. I knew who she was before this year, but I had never read one of her books until now, and I absolutely love her. I just cannot get enough of her books. I recently read her Defy the Night. series as far as it's been written, and I read Call It What You Want, and I actually just got another one of her books, and I can't wait to read it because her writing style I absolutely love. I can fly through her books and I feel totally connected to the characters, and I just really enjoy her books. And then for the adult author, we have Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've only read 2 of her books, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six, but both of them were hands down 5-star reads for me. I loved them so much, and I cannot wait to get to the rest of her books. I'm just waiting for the right time. I kind of want to read them all together. I don't know, but I think they're going to be so good because I think she's just a really incredible author, and I cannot wait to see what I think of her other books. Then we have your newest fictional crush, and this one was so fun to think about. I have 3, but first I'm just gonna give an honorable mention to Elliot from Love and Other Words. I love him, but unfortunately he did not make the top 3. But the top 3 are so fun. I'm so excited to talk about them. These are not in any order, but we're just gonna start with Jacob from Yours Truly. Such a sweetheart. I absolutely love him. He is always so kind. He has always made sure that Brie was comfortable. Even when he was not being treated the best, he would still be so sweet. And I feel like him having anxiety helped me connect a lot to him, and you could definitely say that I have a huge crush on him. And then we have none other than Aaron Warner from Shatter Me. Do I need to explain? I don't think so. I think it's pretty clear. Everybody loves Aaron Warner, and I now understand why after reading the series. I absolutely crushed on him so hard. Every time he called Juliet love, I would just melt into a puddle. Like so much love for him. I wish that there were more Shatter Me books just so I could read more of his perspective because I absolutely adore him so much. And then our last one, we have Will from Practice Makes Perfect. Are we surprised? No, we're not. Will is just everything. Everything that I would look for in a boyfriend is Will. He is just so sweet and caring. He was always making sure that Annie felt comfortable in every situation. He always made sure that she was okay. And he's just, I love that man so much. I cannot get enough of him. I adore him. I adore all of these boyfriends. Definitely 3 new fictional crushes that will stay at the top of my list for quite some time, I think. And then number 9, we have your new favorite character. Again, I had to choose a few for this one. We're gonna start with Jace and Kazi from the Dance of Thieves duology. I love them together as a couple and separately. They are just such great characters. They're so strong, they're so witty, they are just so much fun to read about, and I just absolutely love them. I think about them very often. I love looking up fan art of them because I'm just obsessed with them so much. And then we have Rooney from Loveless by Alice Oseman. This one, I really liked Loveless, but I feel like Rooney made the book what it was because she was just such a great character. She's one of those girls who I felt like it was very relatable. She like acted like she knew what she wanted and she knew who she was on the outside, but inside she still had some insecurities and life was not as perfect as she made it seem. And I feel like that was just very relatable, and I just loved reading about her. She was also just super funny and sweet and caring, and I just adore her character. I still think about her months later because I just loved her so much. And then finally, I feel like this book is taking over this video, but we have Annie from Practice Makes Perfect. She is genuinely one of my favorite characters of all time, not only because she's just a sweetheart, she's so sweet, kind, cute, everything, but because I feel like she is the same person as me. I feel like Sarah Adams like studied who I was as a person and wrote it down into Annie's character. Like, I feel like we are the same, and it's so cool to see myself so much in a fictional character because I've never connected to one as much as I have with her, and it just feels really cool. I just feel very seen by her, and I just love it. So Annie definitely wins this question, but those are some of my favorite characters. Next, we have a book that made you cry, and I feel like this is actually a really fun question because it is rare for me to cry at books or media of any kind. I do feel all the emotions, but I don't typically cry. But there were 2 books this year that made me absolutely sob. So I'm just gonna talk about them really quickly because I loved both of them. First, we have Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. I did not see the twist at the end of this coming, and it made me bawl my eyes out. I sent pictures to my friend just sobbing because I could not handle it. I did not see it coming. It totally took me by surprise, and it made me sob. So I loved this book, but it caused me a lot of pain. And then a book that made me cry more than anything ever has, at least as far as media goes, like genuinely I've never cried so hard. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I was bawling like a baby at 3 a.m. in my bedroom, just sobbing, tears everywhere. I was a mess. I was absolutely, completely just shattered. Because this book was like a snowball effect, like it was like a gut punch, because something happened that made me cry, and then a few pages later, another thing happened that made me cry harder, and then right as I thought I was gonna be done crying, another thing happened that made me cry even harder, and I was just not okay. This one caused me a lot of emotional damage, and I'm still recovering from it months later, but it made it the great book that it is, so I'm not mad about it, but definitely made me cry very hard. And then we have the opposite. We have a book that made you happy, and I picked 4 books for this one. I don't know, I'm just gonna list them off because these were books that made me genuinely feel so happy and giddy. First, we have The Love Wager by Lynn Painter. Lynn Painter has like mastered the rom-com. She makes all of her books so happy and feel good, but also just so funny. Like, she is such a funny author, and I loved that book so much. It made me laugh out loud at times. And then we have Red, White, and Royal Blue. I finally read this one in February after waiting far too long, and I did not expect to feel as happy while I read it as I did. The banter in this book was so good, and there were just so many funny moments. I just could not stop smiling the entire time. It was just too good. And then we have a book that definitely hurt me, but it also made me very happy. We have Happy Place by Emily Henry. Like, don't get me wrong, this book caused pain, but like, I was so happy at the same time. There were so many sweet moments, so many good friendship and relationship moments that happened that just made me feel so warm inside. I just really enjoyed this one. And then we have Loveless by Alice Oseman. This book also was very hard at times to read. It was just so real and raw, but it also left me feeling so happy. It was just a lot about friendship and life and growing up, and it just made me feel very seen and understood, and that made me really happy. Then we have your favorite book to film adaptation you've seen this year, and at first I thought I hadn't seen one yet, but then I remembered I have seen one. It's actually a show, but it still counts. Daisy Jones and the Six. Hello, how could I almost forget about this? I don't even know, but this show was incredible. Like, I think it's one of the best adaptations that have been made from books. They just did such an incredible job, not only with the show, but the music was so good. The cast was absolutely perfect. The people who played the characters were exactly the people that should have been playing them. I just thought the show was incredible. It blew me away. It's very popular for good reason, and if you haven't seen it, please go watch it because it is just so amazing. And then we have the most beautiful book that you have bought or received so far this year. And first, I'm gonna talk about one that I feel so lucky to have. Fourth Wing, a first edition with the sprayed edges. Are you kidding me? This took me so long to find. It's not even funny. I genuinely feel like I got one of the last copies that was available, but it is just so gorgeous. Like, the way it shines, absolutely stunning. It's even more beautiful in real life, and the sprayed edges just make it even more pretty. Like, I genuinely sit and stare at this every single day because I just can't believe that I own a copy. I'm just obsessed with it. And then this one, honestly, any book in the series could have been chosen, but this is my personal favorite. We have Daisy Hates the Great Undoing. Like, that is art. She is beautiful. The back is also so pretty, but like, that is just stunning. I love this cover so much. Everything about it is just so pretty. Another one that I love to stare at because it is just one of my favorite covers I own. It's so pretty. And then finally, we have What Books Do You Need to Read by the End of the Year? And I could have chosen so many different books for this question, but I tried to choose some that I want to read, but maybe are not talked about as much on this channel. So first we have Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I read the Shadow and Bone series like a year and a half ago so that I could read this one, and I still haven't gotten around to it. So hopefully I will read it soon, probably more towards the fall, but I think it's gonna be a really good time. I'm excited to finally get around to it. And then another one that I've been putting off, we have A Court of Thorns and Roses, ACOTAR, of course. Everybody's read this. I've had the series for a good amount of time now, and I still haven't read it. So I think it's about time that I at least read the first book. Hopefully I'll get to it this year, but we shall see. Fingers crossed that I do. Then I want to finish the series, but obviously I have to start with the next one. So we have Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. I read Magnolia Parks and loved it, but I haven't continued the series, and I really want to. So this is very high on my TBR. I will be reading this one soon. And then finally, the last book that we have in this video is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I have had this since the book came out. I literally pre-ordered it, but I've never read it because once I do, the Hunger Games series will be over, and that causes me physical pain to think about because The Hunger Games is my favorite. Like, is that dramatic? Maybe, but like it's the truth. I just don't want it to be over, but I do know I need to read this before the movie comes out in November, so I will be reading it before then. I'm really nervous because I've heard very mixed reviews on it, but I'm just hoping that I'm one of the people that ends up enjoying it, that I fall into that category. But I'm nervous to read it, but also just really, really excited. So those were all the questions. I feel like that was so much fun to reflect on all the books that I read in the first half of the year. Also, can we talk about that? The first half of the year, like how are we halfway through 2023 already? That is just mind-blowing to me. I don't understand it, but I am excited because the second half of the year is my favorite part of the year, so very much looking forward to it. But if you want to do this video, if you have a channel, I would love to see it. I love watching this tag, but also if you don't have a channel, feel free to comment your answers down below because I'm always looking to see people's reading stats and what they think about the books that they've read. Also, if you want to like, comment, or subscribe, feel free to. That helps me so much. And if you want to be friends, all of my socials will be linked down below. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.